Hello guys, welcome to Cinema Express. Today I have with me Swara Bhasker and Ravi Patel, and we're going to chat with them about the upcoming new Netflix show, Bhaag Beanie Bhaag. Hi Swara, hi Ravi, both of you. Welcome to Cinema Express.
Hey, nice to meet
Hi.
you.
Great. Great. Swara, I'll begin by asking, it's been a wonderful phase of sort of reinvention for you, especially on the web. The last time we spoke, you spoke about flesh and, just handling a gun and doing a sort of action role for the first time. Here we see you as a stand-up comic and, firing off jokes from stage. How different was this? And, just to tick a role like this off, to play a stand-up comic and, just take the stage with Bhag Beanie Bhag.
It was great. I mean, I think that Bhaag Beanie Bhaag has been one of the most fun sort of shooting experiences that I've had. And of course, happily, I didn't have to handle
No.
any guns, which was quite a blessing, and I'm grateful for that. I
Right.
was, however, quite terrified of the stand-up portion because
Uh,
that's a whole different craft, really. That something I completely have not been
You
trained
were such a
in.
natural at it, though.
I
You
mean,
were
I
so
don't
good at it. I mean,
know.
honestly, you were a real natural. It was crazy.
It was. I think Ravi, it tends to be nice, but I was terrified
That's
of
also
those.
true. I'm a sweet guy. I'm actually the reason why she had so much fun. But I mean, enough about
right.
me.
That's true, actually. That is actually
Sakhi,
true. Ravi was great
We see
fun,
that.
as were Varun and Dolly. So I was lucky. I was sort of cushioned by a lot of people who were able to sort of help me.
she actually went out and did stand up like around the city, and other comedians would tell me that she like did really well, which is crazy. I don't know if you understand how stand up works, but it takes people a long time to get good at it. And she was apparently just going up and killing it, which is, I mean, I can't believe it. It's
Right.
crazy.
Right. So did you, of course, it was just wonderful. The kind of centerpiece the relationship between, Beanie and Ravi becomes. And firstly, welcome to India and, to do a show like this and to do it with so much candor and, with so much self-deprecation at the same time, from using your own name to, just making a lot of the white Indian jokes on yourself. So how was this experience for you? I'm guessing this is the first time you did a project out here. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first time. In fact, that's why we did it. One of my best friends, a guy named Neil Shah, who like me is from
Mm.
LA. We co-created this show together specifically because we both were like, it would be a dream to make a comedy in India, and we specifically wanted to make something that took place in the stand-up comedy scene because
Right.
it's the fastest growing comedy scene in the world, and it is actually a really important setting for a global social movement. Certainly in India, it is a platform for emerging voices, and that's why we wanted to have a strong female lead played by a strong female actress, and that's how we ended up with Swara. So yeah, man, I'm so
Right.
excited to do it. And it was a dream come true. It still is. It's so cool that we're even doing this right now. The time change
Right.
sucks. I'm over this. We did the auditions. I had to Skype with everyone during the audition. I was auditioning people at like 3 in the morning my time. That part of it, I'm over. Even though I'm enjoying talking to you right now.
Right. Right. So,
I'm drinking right
Swara,
now. I mean, that's a good thing. That's the upside of doing this at
I
night.
know what is going
sure.
on with Ravi's sort of day of promotions. He's having a beer, he's chilling, having like up since 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, coffee, de do.
Yeah, life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Swara, I'd like to just get your quick thoughts. Like you rightly mentioned that the Indian stand-up comedy scene, has been one of the most, culturally exciting, emerging sort of, spheres of talent for us. At least the last 5 years we've seen. I just wanted to get your general thoughts. Yeah, how sort of Indian stand-up has evolved. From let's say the early days of just watching on TV to actually have a thriving live performance to a thriving open mic scene to our comics, crossing over, doing shows internationally, to everything, just your thoughts on, how this scene has emerged.
I think it's amazing. I think that, of course, I have sort of watched it a little bit,
Yeah.
but can't claim to be. Now I know a lot more because of thanks to this
Right.
show, because my homework was basically to understand and get to know the Indian comedy scene. And I think it's amazing. I think that there's a lot of what always strikes me is that there are so many young, smart people out there, and I think that a lot of them, there's just talent and just the way in which they are kind of able to weave what is happening in our country
Right.
and present it with their own observations, and sometimes almost also a critique. So I think
Right.
it's very interesting. It's a I think what has begun to also happen in a lot of the cases is that it's really it's a we're looking at it to see what the young generation actually, how it's interpreting the world and what is happening.
Right.
So there's a lot of expression there which reflects I think which reflects the mood of the larger public as well. And so I've watched it with a lot of interest, and of course um, it's great fun. It's great fun to see how young people are negotiating the realities of
Right.
the world. So I've enjoyed watching it, and of course, they're very. Some of them are big stars. They're very famous. They have
Yeah.
huge followings, which is amazing. I think that it's led to a democratization of fame and stardom also, which is nice. I think the way in which technology has aided this and has actually created the space for this is also interesting. And lastly, I always have a lot of respect for people who are able to deal with live audiences, because I think that that
Right.
is something that is a
Yeah.
very, very different and actually quite hard. It's something we as cinema actors never have to deal with, or as television actors never we people never have to deal with
Right.
it. But to actually write your own content, go present it in front of a live audience, it's the scariest thing in the world. And by the way, Ravi has done it as well. So I mean,
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and he's done it in India.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
which is kind of not necessarily home
Uh,
territory either for him. So I don't know. These are all very brave people, and kudos to all of them.
right. Ravi, tell me this. You work with the best of comics around the world, and a lot of them Indian origin comics. Just tell me about just being in Bombay, interacting with these guys. The comics that you met. In from the India scene, and what did you think? Of their style. How they approach the material, and like Swara mentioned, a lot of them are also constantly reflecting on what's going on in India, and
Mhm.
politically, and a bunch of stuff. Topical stuff. What were your general thoughts when you looked at the comedy scene in India?
I agreed with everything that Swara just said. I mean, I think
Right.
there is, look, like I said, it's the fastest growing comedy scene in the world. And so the amount of entry just in stand-up comedy, it's kind of the hottest thing to do right now. So many people are
Right.
getting into it, and what you're seeing, like she said, is a democratization not just of fame but of creativity, in the sense that stand-up comedy, if you think about what India used to be in terms of media and messaging, 20 years ago, there were
Right.
not as many voices out there. There weren't as many. There were, seemingly there was only one audience. Turns out there's a lot of different audiences, and now we're seeing comedians that cater to each of those audiences. So you're seeing,
Right.
specifically if we talk about stand-up comedy, think about all the different kinds of comedians. You have guys who are specifically Hindi speaking comics, right? You have some guys that lean more English and maybe more global. Then
Hmm.
you have regional
Hmm.
comics. And then of course you have comics that appeal to different lifestyles, different points of view. So what you're seeing in stand-up comedy is a reflection of what you're seeing not just in India but with Indians internationally, which is
Right.
we're not one person. We are literally a billion people doing a billion different things, and a lot of exciting things in many parts of the world.
Right. Right. Swara, when you're working on a show on this format, there's always a thin line between, always keeping the mood funny and keep the audience laughing, but at the same time also exploring, the anxieties and, all kinds of, the self-questioning side of things, and, what Vinny goes through, and, her negotiations with her career, her family, and to present both pictures. How tricky is that? Because obviously in a comedy show there's that commitment, to keep the laughs coming, but at the same time, be with the drama, be with the character as well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was absolutely. I think that I was sort of basically very propped up for everything that you were describing by the writing. I think that the
Hmm.
show
Hmm.
is actually very wholesome. It's not just about
Right.
comedy. It's actually, for me, it is really a sort of a show which is the journey of self discovery for a young girl who has basically imbibed the kind of values that Indian parenting and Indian society and culture in general, in a larger sense, I'm not speaking individually, basically gives all girl children, which is to be, obedient, to always listen to your parents and your family and elders, to be responsible towards other people first before yourself, to
Right.
be caring of other people's emotions, to, always, and to be cautious and to be safe. I mean, roughly speaking, these are the generic values that all children, but especially girl children, get. So, what struck me the most about this show was actually it's using comedy and the
Hmm.
comic scene, but it's actually telling a story which is so relatable for, I would say, so many young South Asian girls and maybe girls from other parts of the world as well. Which is really that you don't realize that you've basically spent your whole life living as per the expectations of your parents, of society, of other people. You've actually spent your whole life saying yes. So if mama says, come back by 7 o'clock in the evening, yes, mama. If papa says, do MBA, yes, papa. If boyfriend says, let's get married, yes, baby. So, it's just your yes, 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 yes. And the one time she says no to other people and yes to herself, it just unleashes this whole chaos. And
Right.
that is what was the most beautiful aspect of this show, that this is the premise, and then how this girl discovers herself and how she learns to balance. So for me, actually, it's a very universal story, especially for women. And it's interesting that Ravi and Neil have created this show, because I was like, I was like, how are two guys able to
Right.
sort of, pick up on these nitty gritties of what is actually a very universal female experience for young women. And that is actually what I enjoyed the best. And I think the writing supported me well. And I kept telling myself, it's okay if you're not a stand-up comic, you're an actor. There is a story in this that also requires an actor, because there are other emotions than just the stand-up sets. So that's how I justified being in the show to myself.
Right. Right.
Well, that was
Ravi,
actually our
yeah.
justification. No,
Yeah.
we actually, I mean, the stand-up comedy is the least important element of the story. It
Hmm.
really is. The most important, it's exactly what Swara just said. That's what it's about. And by the way, to answer how we wrote it, it's the fact of the matter is we Neil and I wrote the pilot, but we had a ton of help along the way. We had producers in the States, we had producers in India, we had a writers' room split between the U.S. and India. Um, you know, so many people from different walks of life contributed to telling the story in a way that hopefully eventually felt authentic.
Right. There's a stretch that stuck with me. Where Ravi and Beanie are in the loo, and he starts telling her about how you're always gonna bomb, and there's gonna be this phase of where you're gonna struggle with your craft, and and he almost borderline gets preachy, but a message is put forward there. Then he takes it to a really grotesque level, and he start turns it into a joke, talking about how one day you'll just be depressed and you'll want to throw yourself off the roof. So, just that slide was quite interesting, okay, because the show is making a point, but at the same time taking it in a
That was
direction that
all
is.
Ravi improv. That was Ravi doing improv right there.
That was a very fun scene to do, wasn't it, Swara?
Yeah, it was insane. That was crazy. And Ravi just coming up with every take, he has more horrible things. And I'm just like, well, is it also like, is it a metaphor for what my future is gonna be like? Like, what is going on here?
Right. You talk about, just how that came to be and, how was it shooting? Yeah.
Well, how did that scene come to be?
Yeah. Was it always written that way, or was it like an improv thing, or how did it go? Yeah.
I don't. Swara,
Yeah.
do you remember what
Hmm.
was in the script? I don't remember. I mean, generally speaking, everything we did, the idea of it, at least, was in the script. But we, we had a lot of fun with this thing. And it wasn't just me. I think all of us played quite a bit. And I mean, I don't know. I know that scene specifically. I
Yeah,
remember
there
us
wasn't
shooting
so
it a
much talk
lot.
about there wasn't so much scatological references, not so many references to illness, and
Yeah,
not so many
Huh.
yeah,
references to suicide. Ravi just like
yeah.
took it and just made it like he just painted the darkest picture possible,
I
but it's
think
like the
that scene
funniest.
specifically in the script, like I think that scene specifically was probably a few lines in the script, and then I turned it into like a kind of one man show, and then we had to
It
edit
was
it down to something that could fit.
Right.
There was a lot more.
Right.
Actually, my favorite line got cut. I can't remember what it was.
Huh.
Something about like diarrhea and
Right.
underwear. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was asking about, the very refreshing casting of the parents, Girish and Mona ma'am, that adds a wonderful layer. And we've not seen them in this kind of a role. Girish sir, we've seen as a cop, as a crooked politician, but to play dad like that, who loves her, but, is always sort of two steps behind. Just working about with these two wonderful actors. Yeah,
It was lovely. I think that absolutely. I think that the casting is really the big win in this show. Also, I mean, apart from the fact that it's a really fun show and it's written so nicely and everything, but I think that Girish sir and Mona ji were both amazing. I think it's really kudos to Seher and Shivani and everyone who worked on the casting as well. It, I think that the nicest thing is in this show is that it's very realistic about the kind of tension and friction that characters have. So the parents are not villains. They're not. It's not like they're these crazy
right,
conservative, honor killing kar denge, and it's not like that. They're regular people who are also grappling with the kind of values that they have grown up with and that society and culture has taught them, and now they are dealing with this child who is
right,
obviously influenced by a lot of other things apart from just their own parenting. And so I thought that that tension was very beautifully explored both in the writing, and I think the way in which Mona ma'am and Girish so were able to sort of pick up on every possibility and nuance that was in the writing and then build on it. I mean, there's a really, I think that the relationship between the parents and Beanie is one of the nicest things about the show. It's
Oh, it's the
so
best, and it's so funny.
hopeful. It makes you feel like it's okay if even if our parents don't agree with us today, maybe someday they'll get it. So there's
They're also
something very
just so
nice.
funny. Wait,
Yeah,
is
they're
Girish really
both
not
tremendous
played it?
actors.
You guys haven't seen Girish play a dad before,
right.
because he seems like that's all he should do. He's so funny at it. It's incredible.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also had to get your thoughts. Presently in India, a lot of our stand-up comics are female stand-up comics, and they're doing great, and all over the world they have a huge fan following. Domestically, though, there's an amount of extra layer of scrutiny that we have also observed. There was the whole situation with let's say Agrima's video some months back, and you always feel that a lot of the trolling that comes, there's an additional gendered layer to that. With the whenever stand-up a female stand-up comic especially does something that asks people and stuff. I just wanted to get your on that, and are we sort of moving away or from that kind of a culture where the trolling gets a little too much? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's in general safe to say that gender is an added layer to anything and any
right,
experience that happens, whether it's performing comedy to crowds. And I think that a lot of women comics talk about the experience of realizing that they are women. Why,
right,
and that they are not necessarily being seen just as comics, but they're also being perceived as women comics, and then whatever challenges that
right,
brings. And of course, when it comes to scrutiny and criticism and trolling, being a woman is an added layer of that experience. It's something that defines you, because I think the kind of things that men hear and the kind of things that women hear, there's a very there is a difference in the nature of that. um,
Yeah.
though perhaps not, because a lot of times even when men are trolled, they're reminded of the women in their life. So
right,
so I think that
right,
that's just something that is a comment on our just on us as a people, and us as uh, as the power structures that we inhabit. So and for me, I've always maintained that the way to deal with all this is to like challenge what you don't think is right, and stand up for what you do think is right. So yeah, just that.
I'll end on a lighter note. I found was, the one about the dumb Indians, and I thought it was wonderfully written and also placed. You know how the audience doesn't crack up because it's so us, right? And I found it hilarious, but I can imagine it bombing. You know, in a live stage in India. Just tell me about the doing that bit, and also putting yourself out there. You know, giving your identity as a American Indian comic. Just to do a joke like that. Yeah.
What was the dumb Indians joke? What? I should remember this. I literally made the
They're all
show.
in
What was
India. They're
the?
all in India.
It was in your,
Oh,
yeah, it was about the, yeah, that was really funny.
yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't remember if that's one that Neil and I wrote a lot of the stand up, and then we had like actual great comedians
Uh,
come in and do the rewrites and write some real jokes. So that specific one, I can't remember if that was us or some real comedians. But if it was funny, it was probably the real comedians that thought of it.
That was hilarious.
It was fun to do.
right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Swara. Thank you so much, Ravi. Great talking to you guys. All the best for the show. And keep making us laugh and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Please give
man.
it
Take
good
care.
reviews.